We are deep into spooky season, and I don't know about you, but I have been watching all of the different Halloween types of patterns that people are putting in compilations. And a lot of them are just ideas for spooky season. Some of them are more fall related. The pattern in particular that caught my eye that I was kind of surprised that I only saw maybe one or two creators highlight is this adorable Grim Reaper that you saw on the thumbnail. So that's probably why you clicked. And I thought it would be interesting if I actually tried to create that live and have a live reaction and see how it goes, see if I think it's worth being a paid pattern. I'm going to keep talking to give you a chance, if you haven't already purchased the pattern, to minimize me in your corner, and then go over to Etsy, and if you want to follow along anyway and purchase her pattern. It is this Grim Reaper right here. It is currently on sale for $1.95. So I thought, well, that's pretty low risk, and I never mind paying for patterns and supporting, good designers. And so I guess it'll be interesting to comment on whether I feel like it's worth $1.95, whether I feel like it's worth the original $6.50. And so I did already download this, and I have only really looked at the first page just to get a sense for what all do I need, right? So I did go ahead and gather up all the materials. Now, I will say already from the get-go, one thing that the pattern did not specify is how much yarn you might need or consume. I don't have Himalaya, I think it's called Himalaya Dolphin from Hobbii. I haven't even ordered from Hobbii yet because I have enough options right now, and then I just get overwhelmed. And I happened to see this was the last of just chenille at my Dollar Tree. I was hoping there was going to be two, and I dug through every rack to try to find a second one just in case I need a second one. So this is 65 yards, 60 meters for my international friends. And let's hope it's enough. The pattern did say it is a 15 centimeter. Did I just say that right? Anyway, about a 6-inch tall plushie. And so I'm hoping that's enough. I grabbed a small amount of stuffing. I have this style of bamboo skewer in my kitchen for city chicken and kebabs or whatever, which I never make, and I just use these sticks for random things. So this will be for his little, I think it's called a scythe or something. It did call for a 2mm crochet hook, which felt really small for a 6-weight yarn. So I did happen to have a 2mm. I'll give it a go. We'll see how it goes. But I also grabbed two other sizes. One is a 2.25 and the other is a 3.25 because I don't apparently have anything in between that. So I have these on standby in case the 2mm is too fiddly to work with. I do tend to crochet on the loose side. However, for something like this that you want to stand up well, I understand wanting it super tight, but this still felt super extreme to me. Anyway, I grabbed a pair of pliers just because they have a cutting edge, so if I need to cut down the little bamboo skewer. If for any reason I feel like I'm having any wrist discomfort, I got this, but I've been fine lately. Oh, hey, Katie. Sorry, my computer's over here, so I got stitch markers if I need them, scissors. So I think I have everything I need. I grabbed a pen for no apparent reason because I downloaded the pattern and I didn't print it this time, so I have no idea why I grabbed a pen, but I did. So the pattern listing on Etsy did not say what skill level to expect this for, which I thought was interesting. I'm not making this a tutorial. Obviously, I'm going to respect copyright and only mention if I come up on a spot that is not explained very well, and maybe we can talk through it together if you're also a crocheter, or if you're Katie and you're just hanging out, that's really awesome too, so thank you. And anyone else, if you want to say where you're from, that would also be fun. I think at this point everybody's about had enough time. If you are going to purchase the pattern, to go ahead and follow along. You have done so already. So I'll bring it up on my iPad again, for copyright, I'm going to keep it as much out of frame as possible. And we grab, oh, of course, I lost the page that I was saved on. There it is. Okay. So this is going to be a fun experiment, I hope. And I'd love to do more of these because I see all of these pattern compilations for ideas for all sorts of seasons. Summer, spring, all of those. Oh, this is the other end that was, oh my goodness. I might need to turn on the light behind me because black yarn. I did also grab some gray yarn over here because there were 2 skeins available of that. So if I can't make this, well, I'll just have to make it later with the gray yarn. But obviously I just really wanted to try it. And I might have to work from the outside end if I can't find. Ooh, that wasn't too bad for yarn barf, right? That was actually probably the luckiest I could get, especially in a live situation. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I watch your videos and I still need to get walking, but that's another whole story. And, you know, because you and I know each other, I do have an appointment tomorrow to talk about GLP-1 and see if that helps with my energy. So I'm excited and nervous about that because even when I do try to work out, what I've noticed is then I become unreasonably hungry for the next 3 days. And so like there's no benefit. So I think I was just at a point where it was worth talking about. Come on. I swear this is not my first day with my iPad, but apparently, well, you know what? I know why. Because I thought it would be smart to put my iPad in airplane mode because I thought it was like, well, it's a downloaded PDF, and so that'll keep notifications from popping through, but apparently it wants to be on Wi-Fi. Oh, it's probably because it's in the cloud, huh? Ah, yeah, I know. I remember you mentioned that. And I don't remember if it was one of the videos I watched or if we were just talking separately about something. So I'm a little nervous, and I've heard so many mixed results. I have a friend at work who started with Ozempic and then was doing okay, and then they switched her to the other one that I'm blanking on all of a sudden. And like she's not doing so well on it, so that I thought that was really interesting. Okay. Well, worst case scenario, I'll just re-download this from Etsy, which is unfortunate that my iPad wants to not cooperate it. And that is the beauty of going live, right? You just never know. I think, what is that show with, Watch What Happens Live? I think that's like part of it is because you just don't know. So let me pull up the pattern a different way. And, oh, the other thing I thought was really interesting was, and either I missed it in the listing or it's just like a surprise bonus that even for the $1.95, she sends you an extra bonus like surprise pattern. So I thought that was really cool. It just happened to be something I personally was not interested in, but doesn't mean I'll never make it because maybe someone in my life will want one. You know what I did not grab is a tapestry needle, but that might be okay for now. We'll make it work. Manjaro, yeah, okay. That's one I couldn't think of. Let's see. So, of course, there's some typical pattern notes that your tension might be different results, which we'll see what happens. Another type of yarn. So I did look up the Himalayan dolphin because I didn't know what it was, and so that's when it brought up Hobie. It did have some other, you know, when you Google something, it'll bring up other similar types of things, and so it brought up Baby Bee, Adorable. That's one of the the Hobby Lobby yarns. let's see what else it brought up was Big Twist Baby Bear, which the baby ones at Joann's at least typically don't have a black, and I think a lot of craft, like yarn lines that are baby geared, don't have a lot of black in them ever, which is strange because you think it would be an okay accent color at least, but sort of I get it. Mainstays Cozy Chenille would be an option through Walmart if you wanted to go that route. Parfait Chunky Yarn Bee Velvety Smooth, which is basically the normal, not baby-like version. So there are options that could work if you don't happen to have just chenille or Hobie yarn at your disposal. Or if you just want to make this in another color and you just have something laying around, that would also be really cool. All right. So standard disclaimers. All right. Make a ring with a chain 12. Okay. Oh, we get so used to doing magic ring, at least in the crochet world, that like initially I'm like, huh? But now that I see the pictures below, so there are plenty of pictures to go off of. It's just constructed a little bit differently, which sort of I appreciate. I know not everybody enjoys using the magic ring. I have personally found other ways to work it for me. All right. So that was the only confusing thing so far is I thought it wanted to say magic ring, but it's just actual chain a certain amount. And this is a point where I would say this is going to be very difficult to see. I might actually turn on another light, even if it creates a little bit of a weird lighting situation because it is black yarn. I didn't think that through. Maybe I should have used gray, at least for the purpose of doing this on camera. But I was being stubborn and I really wanted a black little Grim Reaper. So, all right. So, all right, there's already a couple of details that if I was a brand new crocheter, I might not 100% understand. So it's saying to make a ring. Okay, so you make the ring with however many it is because trying to protect her pattern. And then it just says the next number of single crochets after that. But it doesn't say like in the ring or like in each of those stitches. I cannot 100% tell by the pictures either. So I am going to wing this and do what I think it is. There's also, she doesn't say whether to chain one or not. Just being that it's the first round, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, that's an experience thing. So I don't know that I would say that this is a beginner crochet pattern at this point based on some of the lack of details. Maybe an advanced beginner because, yeah, probably advanced beginner, novice area. Nope, this isn't going to be the right way. Okay. Ooh. I really thought this was going to be like a super easy, like, oh, look how fun this pattern is. But I think this is good to do this live. And, you know, a lot of times we see pattern reviews and it's, hang on, I'm going to have to go ahead and hit the lights. Oh. And give myself a little bit more visibility here with black yarn. At least it's chenille, so there's enough of a sheen-ish a little bit on there and texture to kind of see some definition. But it is going to be a little bit difficult. So if you're also a super beginner or eyesight, because I don't want to blame age, but I've always really liked having a ton of light when I craft, though I don't think that was ever an age thing. So people usually, like if they say, oh, black yarn, I can't work with it, I'm like, get better lighting. I mean, oh, and how are you feeling after your 10K? Okay, I think that was the correct number. I'm going to stop and count again. Okay, that is the correct number. It feels off. I wonder if I accidentally, and it doesn't say also if I'm supposed to, oh, good, slip into the top and keep working up, or if this is a spiral pattern. So I guess crocheter's choice on that one. Something just doesn't feel right to me. All right. Let's make sure I have the right number of chains because maybe that's part of the problem. Yep. Okay. I had the right one. I think I ripped one extra when I was ripping it out. So, So I'll make the ring. And I guess for funsies, I'm not going to do the chain one to build it up. I'll just spiral it. Okay, something still feels off, but I'm going to keep going. Maybe the first one I should have made out of acrylic, but here we are. We're this far into it. So, let's see. Okay. Now I'm at the point where I'm going to start marking because otherwise I will never see the beginning of these rows. And also, I would not be surprised if that foundation chain that I just made, after doing single crochets in it, if that got twisted. Normally I would try not to, but I'm actually even struggling with my level of experience. So, and again, that's because I'm choosing to use black yarn. Also, this is the bottom of the body, so chances of someone seeing it, I think, are pretty slim. I made a mistake there. No, half marathon. Well, the thing is about those, there's usually like attached like a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon usually going on at the same time, or even if it's only a half marathon, there's usually other distances. So like if your sister wants to do the half marathon, I mean, it would only be a couple of K that she would do on her own. So let's see. This is very difficult. I might switch to gray yarn just to be able to see a little bit better. Oh my goodness. Like, I think it will totally be worth having a black one, but maybe starting with not black would have been the way to go. So you kind of understand the pattern a little bit better. Let's see. This is not working very well. Hey, how's it going? I am switching from black yarn to gray yarn because I normally don't complain about black yarn, but because this pattern is, I'm actually struggling with it a little bit, I think it might help me see what I'm either doing wrong or interpreting wrong. So, and also, sure, black yarn on camera was not the most awesome choice. I didn't know you weren't able to. You were having issues. Aw. Because I watch Katie's channel, but sometimes I don't watch comments and stuff too, so. Alright. So I have two ends. This is the outer end. Once I find it. All right. Ooh. I do not know what was going on in the factory that day, but this is excessively twisty. And I haven't even started working with it and making it like, when you work with yarn, you tend to put a little bit of twist in it as you're working. But this is fascinating, especially for a chenille. So, shall try this again. And see where I was potentially going wrong. And I do not really actually enjoy that hook size. Go up. Okay, that just going to go up a little bit. It's not like a lot, but it has just enough more of a hook head to be able to grab better. So okay. So I'll make the ring it is saying to make. And again, for anyone that might be crocheting along, this is not a magic ring. Apparently, I made my first chain super tight. Okay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use the idea of spiraling again instead of building with a chain. I guess in theory, like, that would also be the back of the plushie, so, like, I guess it wouldn't really matter. I might have twisted the chain as I connected. And I'll be smart and bust out the stitch marker now. And of course, for anyone who is watching the replay, let us know where you're from. And Katie and Klingon Princess, if you want to say where you're from, for those people that might watch later, that might be fun for them. Or also, if you're crocheting along, it's cool if you want to stop and answer, but I get it if you're also kind of just trying to figure things out and muddle along. No worries. All right. This for sure got twisted, and I don't think I'm interested in making it perfect at this point. So all right. Well, that was interesting. Obviously went a little bit better than the black yarn. So I'll just keep going at this point. I don't see any other spots that seem too troublesome yet as far as the instructions. So definitely getting started was a little rough. Um, but I still have paid $2 for this pattern. I guess we'll see. I think my expectations for a $2 pattern are, I mean, not as much as say like if this was the original price of $6.50, I would already be irritated. But I'm willing to move along and keep going. I also think if it's your first time making this, it might have been worth making it in acrylic at least one time just to have a better idea of what to look for. Never used to have issues with these novelty yarns. And I don't know if it's just because I don't know. I don't know. And I think given the issues, it's probably worth counting every row, which I mean, I know I should do, but I don't always. Let's be real if I'm just doing stuff to do stuff. Okay. Now I might be good. Let's see. I feel like I'm okay. I think part of my struggle was even looking at the pictures, I was not fully understanding the construction. But again, it's one of those ones where the more you look at it, the more it does eventually make sense. So I will keep plugging along. I think it is also going to be interesting to see how long this takes. At this point, if you're looking for something market friendly that's relatively quick, I don't know if this is it right now. Granted, by the time you make several of them, that might change. Because, you know, some of my stuff that I have sold in the past, I've gotten faster and faster at, you know, until I make a mistake and then have to rip it all back out and, you know, oops, you know what? Speaking of, I just made a mistake. Which I think that's important because as a more experienced person, I still remember very clearly certain mistakes I've made in the past and what I learned from them and, you know, what not to do again. But I also hear from people like they just get so stressed out about not wanting to make mistakes when they're learning a new craft in general. And I think that's sort of a little sad that especially as adults, because I was a child when I learned how to crochet. So mistake was like, I don't know, I'll just figure it out. And eventually I did. But I think as adults, it's kind of sad that we place such a huge expectation on ourselves when I'm like, okay, but look at everything we've learned so far in our lives, and we weren't always good at them. And I still make mistakes, and there are other parts of my life where I still make mistakes in. Forgetting something's on the stove and burning it, okay? Um, that's another whole issue, but I do have a video coming out soon, basically of that tone of like, please don't be afraid to try something new. All right, I'm counting every row, and I'm still coming up off. every time and having to, I don't want to say fudge it, but kind of. So let's see. The math is not mathing on that one. Am I the problem? Let's find out. So, people who are allegedly more experienced experts, we also make mistakes too. All right. So, let me count the one before because maybe that's the issue. The other thing is when you're crocheting this type, sometimes it is easy, especially as you're increasing and it kind of spills over to miss the top of the next stitch. So it very well could be that is the problem because I've done that before too. I was off by one. Uh-huh. Where was I think I see it. So, whoops. So obviously I cannot blame the designer for that. That is a me problem. No, I'm at 18. Okay. I mean, a number. Oh, I don't think saying that there's a round of 18 is giving away a pattern either. Okay. I think I'm back on track. And remind me, Klingon Princess, I think you said you do something crafty. Is it sewing? So if you are, I'm curious if you're working on anything in particular, as I'm trying to count. Okay. I'm kind of surprised I don't have any cameos. All three cats are just soundly sleeping because it's one of those dreary afternoons. I scheduled this for 1 o'clock because apparently I have given up on the Cleveland Browns, like many other people this year, unfortunately. That's also subject to change at any point. Okay. Well, all right. I know I probably shouldn't look ahead. Or maybe you should read the pattern ahead. A lot of designers will say read the whole pattern before you get started. This one didn't say that. It's really good general practice. I mean, I glanced at it, but not fully. So, let's go ahead and, for Dollar Tree, I'm not going to complain that this is not an ideal skein of yarn. A little surprised because it is Premier, but, I guess not everyone is perfect, and that's okay. It's $1.25. I'll be fine. So, all right. Now we see what we're doing on the next one. I certainly thought I would be further along by now, which, okay, part of that was choosing black yarn. That wasn't the wisest in the beginning. Changing the hook also helped. Now, never having worked with the yarn the pattern designer suggested, maybe it does seem to suit that yarn better. So who knows? I was just using what was readily available. That I did not have to wait to arrive from Denmark or order enough to feel like it was worth it. I know some people really love Hobie. I'll look at this stuff and then I always talk myself out of it. And I think this, just because there are so many more readily available choices, I mean, as readily available as living rurally can provide, but I mean, truthfully, it's only a 25-30 minute drive to just about any box craft store. Walmart's probably about a little over 15 minutes away, and you can get by on some of the Walmart craft sections. Oh yeah, that's right. You do. Oh, you sew garments too. I haven't done that probably since I was a kid. Oh wow, you do a lot of stuff. I was actually thinking, and I don't remember what made me think of this, that I haven't done a doily in eons, but that it might be fun. But I also couldn't figure out like a purpose for a doily, which I mean, I'm not necessarily someone who feels like everything has to be super the most useful. I just couldn't figure out if it would be like a display thing. I don't know yet. Although I guess some of the stuff on my bookshelf, that might be a fun, like underneath thing, but then you don't really see the doily. Having cats is also an issue. Cross stitching a butterfly. Oh, a quilt. Oh my gosh, that's gonna take forever. Yeah. And actually, it's funny. I just bought a cross stitch and maybe two cross stitch and an embroidery kit from Hobby Lobby. And even though, well, the embroidery, I got beginner ones because I never quite got the hang of it. So I wanted to try it again at some point. To make one sound like, I don't know, they're just fun. I get what you're saying though. The cross stitch pattern kit that I picked up from Hobby Lobby was a beginner one, and so even though I don't feel like I need to learn from square one, it was more like I just thought it was a cute design than anything, and small enough to hold my attention. All right. I think I'm about correct on this, and then, okay. Looks like just a certain number of rounds of just plain crocheting without increasing. And it's kind of interesting. I find that fun about the craft community, especially here on YouTube, because as myself as a viewer, even though, I don't own a sewing machine anymore and I don't do a lot of those other things anymore, and I've really kind of just focused into the things that truly bring me a lot of happiness and joy, which there's nothing wrong with having that many things that bring you joy, by all means. For me, it's more, I have so many knit and crochet things that I want to make that I would rather focus on that right now. But it's funny because I'll also watch like other crafts as I'm crocheting or knitting just cause. It's that hangout aspect of it that's so fun, or at least relaxing, or you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. I didn't think to do that. And I can't remember if it came with DMC or not. I don't think it is because it came on those little bobbins, which I don't know that I'd ever seen a kit come that way before, which I found super interesting. But I did remember thinking the floss didn't seem the same. Now, if it was a more, I don't know, I don't want to say intricate. Like, there are certain designs that if I would probably go through the trouble of getting the better DMC floss, truthfully. But this was just something where I'm like, oh, it's just a quick little, like, I don't know, like a planter of, I don't even remember what the plant is inside of the little planter. And I'm like, it'll just hang on my desk, my cubicle walls at work. So, I'm fine with it. Then also that gives me the opportunity to rate that kit at some point. But it's now sitting on my desk in my office because, why not? I feel like I go through phases. So, so you both came from my decluttering stuff and me trying to be tidier. Like, my rooms go through phases. So whenever I get around to grading my progress for the last year or so of decluttering and keeping tidy, I think on any given day, it's really going to fluctuate because then I'll get in the mode of like, okay, I really need to straighten this up. Part of my office nonsense right now is also I pulled out a bunch of stuff to film for this channel and I didn't want the cats getting into it. So like it's all on the floor and the door is closed. So that room is getting a little more than where I want it. I think overall I'm still better than where I was a year ago, certainly. The room that was totally cleared out at one point now houses the vast majority of my yarn because Queso, and for anyone new here, Queso is my Siamese tabby-ish mixed cat. And I used to use the vinyl sweater hangers in the closet, which I really actually enjoyed that system quite a lot. And I've had several cats in the past, and not like Queso. He's really something else sometimes. Like, he's a very sweet boy, but then like sometimes I'm like, where do you come up with your ideas? He saw the yarn through the vinyl side and it's quite holy, and he's managed to mess up both inexpensive and expensive yarns in there, and so now those are all laying down on that floor and they do take up quite a bit of space. So I'm hoping that's very temporary. I found one shelving solution I'm considering. I have another vision in my head that, based on the fact that I can't find anything like it, except for one option that was not a price I'm willing to pay, I may have to do some building of shelves to make what I want. But then I'm also like, okay, but lumber. And also, right now, other people need lumber more than I need lumber. So for the price of the one shelving unit, I don't think it would be a bad option. I think I struggled with the shelving unit because then clearly I can't put stuff on the bottom several shelves, because he also likes to teach Madeline what not to get into. So, which mostly she just wants to sniff stuff, but I still, even my best cats that weren't like cats that got into stuff have at some point in their lives gotten into yarn and, made a fun little expedition with it. And, it's like, okay, I try, just, it is what it is. They're cats. They're still going to enjoy yarn at some point. So even the ones that tended not to get into it eventually did, typically. Not often. It was a very rare occasion, but it did happen. So eventually I would like to get it to a point where all the doors in my house aren't shut. So, all right. Okay. Now, I think I'm in the home stretch. This is starting to go better. It was a little fiddly to get started. And then I realized I thought this was going to be the bottom, and it definitely is not. So even if the chain did get twisted, I think by the time everything is sewn together, it's not going to be super noticeable, I hope. And actually, let's see. Do I have? Yes, I do. So while I'm quietly counting, put a little bit of something on so it's slightly more interesting. Just going to pop that up. Check myself on that. And now I'm gonna just keep crocheting point. So his little body is almost done. If you would have told me before this stream that it was going to take almost an entire hour, I don't know that I would have believed you, because I'm like, but he's so small and cute. Which, some of it is, you know, there's opportunity at the beginning of this pattern to do a little bit better and be a little bit clearer, but it wasn't tragic by any stretch. And I don't think it's totally uncommon for a brand new to you pattern to, at least for me anyway, to spend a little bit of time at the beginning just kind of getting a feel for what's going to happen. I guess I'll loop the music again. It's fine. I will say that I do kind of wish StreamYard had more of a playlist loop, not just loop the same song. But you know what? I'm doing the free version right now, so it's fine. Keep crocheting a little bit more. All right. I dared it to check the score, and shocker, the Browns are losing. Oh, goodness. And I know some people would be like, well, why would you still root for them? And it's like, I don't know, I think we're all suckers for a classic underdog story. I don't know. I do believe I have, yeah, it looks like one more straight crochet around after this. And I think this was the biggest maybe the hat might be the bigger portion of this guy. And so far it doesn't feel like I've used a ton of the skein, it still feels like there's a pretty good amount. So if you are just joining, it was because it didn't say how much, and I decided to gamble on one of the small skeins at Dollar Tree, which was actually more of that's what they had left. So at least in the black, they only had one skein left. So even though I switched to the gray for the purpose of this video, be curious to see if this is a little one skeiner or not. I also did not go over to Ravelry to see if anyone else has made it that made comments as such. That probably would have been a really good idea in hindsight, but here we are. We're this far into it, and I'll find out, and we can have a serious game of yarn chicken. Oh, yeah. You know, and I think it's because it's from the comments of, so you're on challenge level, run a stream, talk to us, and figure out the pattern. Well, here's the thing. I feel like a lot of people are pretty forgiving on live streams, so I'm not trying to run one of those, awesome vidIQ or Sean Cannell productions. That's not my goal today. I'll get there someday, maybe. But this is more just to be chill, and I think at first glance when I saw the pattern photo, it seemed simpler in my mind. And again, everyone writes patterns differently. What they wrote obviously was extremely clear to them. So, I don't know if this is pattern tested. I don't know. And again, for $1.95 for a pattern, which is not bad at all. It's not been terrible. It's just a few little bumps and bruises, and it's okay. All right, well, I'm supposed to end here, but I'm also going to end with a slip stitch in the next one just to have a little bit of a neater edge, just so later. These are not lefty friendly. That's okay. I probably should have used a longer tail to sew, but I can do that on the next piece for this. So here is his little cloak body so far. So even though I've gone up in hook size, this is a very dense fabric. Depending on how heavy his head ends up being, you might not need to even, I guess I still would probably, just for safety's sake, stuff it and make the bottom piece and sew it up. And I think that was what I originally thought with this pattern, is that was the intention, is that, you don't even need to stuff it, but it's not like I'm going to use a ton of stuffing on this. Oh man, this one is super twisty. Part of me really wants to grab the other ball of gray just to see if it's any better, but then I'll lose the experiment. So I will push on forward with this. All right, so next, so she calls it a lid or the lower body cover, which I guess if you didn't know what else to call that, I could see that being called a lid. So Okay, now this one starts with a magic ring. Interesting. And again, this isn't tutorial time. This is... I do have a better way that I do prefer to do magic rings. Typically, I didn't plan well for that, if I'm being honest. So, um, so I'm just going to do the classic magic ring and hope that when I pull it tight, it doesn't snap. Ooh, this is not going to end well if I keep it pulling the way I was pulling. I did see another tip on how to do this. So I'll try that out as I go. So I didn't need to make that first chain quite so snug. That was unnecessary. Oops. So the tip I had heard was tug a little bit after each stitch, and I don't think this is not going to want to cooperate. So since I've mangled that a little bit, I'm going to, I should have some scrap yarn nearby. And I might as well grab my sewing kit for when I get to that part. Oh, cool. The cats have definitely found this. So I'm going to start the magic ring with acrylic. Is that enough of a length? It should be. All right. So with the novelty yarns, what I've learned is grab acrylic. And my Wednesday is made this way too. Now, normally I would try to match this. I don't know if I actually have gray acrylic anywhere in the house, shockingly. And also this is the bottom of him, so I think it'll be fine. But anyway, I've just looped it and done like a small little, like, pretend like I'm about to tie a knot, but not actually. So the next part is, okay, made my little knot. This way it does get a little fiddly at the beginning of the ring, but I think the fact that the end result is usually worth it, it'll be fine. Oh my goodness. Yep, that's going to end up way better already. So I'm not fully tightening it yet. I'd like to do one last tighten up after a few rounds usually. So okay, that makes sense. The math part of my brain shut off for a second. Actually, I think I know what they're going for, but again, there's a piece that's not explicit. So the count that this is going to end on after several rounds doesn't necessarily match the body, but it doesn't come out and say the ratio of this to sew to the circle when I'm done. Um, it makes, I don't want to say total sense, but as someone more experienced and seeing how it's shaped in the pattern photos, kind of I get it. It just would have been nice to lay that out for someone that might be newer at this. And I totally don't mean to be so hypercritical about this pattern. Again, I know I can figure all of these little things out. I'm also trying to look at it from a lens of, okay, if it's not specified on the Etsy listing, what skill level should I expect? And I would say at least advanced beginner, novice, possibly into intermediate at this point, which is fine. Not everything has to be for a beginner. It just would be nice to say that up front because I could see someone else. I'm just thinking of people I've known who I have either taught or who have tried to learn in the past. I could see some of them getting very frustrated. Okay. So now I think I'm okay to fully tighten up my ring, which again, because it's, in my mind, I'm probably going to take this to work and have it sit on my desk because why not? I don't know. Actually, it might go somewhere around here too, but being the bottom, it doesn't need to be super the most tightest ring. And even though I used another color yarn, you can see really how well that works. And it's just a tutorial that I have not had a chance to make yet. Being sick really put me behind, which is part of why I was like, why don't I just go live? Because I was going to make this a whole review video of this pattern, and I'm like, well, it seems like a small enough thing to make. Why not do it live? And then I can't. You get a real picture then of how someone feels about something. Oops, something is not. Okay. see. Woohoo, okay. Turns out I was able to make that work. All right. Again, fasten that off. This one I will make sure this is an excessive amount for sewing, I'm sure, at this point. So, fill the body and sew it. So, I'm going to make sure this, I don't remember if I did a full knot on this. I definitely want my curved needles for this. I'm really glad I grabbed the curved needles because another one would be hard. So get rid of that. I might regret actually making this so long. It's fine. Because I could stuff the body here like it suggests, or I could shove that way. Also, did I estimate the right amount of stuffing? I don't know. Okay. I think also I could see making this circle bigger and having it match, because I think that would also be 100% fine if there's a concern on the ratio of sewing, or you just want that look instead of how it kind of curves under. So I'm also going to have to be mindful not to overstuff so that it becomes, you know, weeble wobbly and can't actually stand on its own. So I think for now, I'll stuff through the top just so I don't have to fight with stuffing. And this is truly interesting. I wanted to go into this totally blind, and I think next time I do something like this, I'll read the whole pattern all the way through so I can have a little heads up on any potential roadblocks, pitfalls, concerns, and be able to think about them ahead of time. This might also not be the best yarn to sew with, which I think might just be because of how twisty it was from the factory. Unfortunately. I also only really read like the first two reviews. And um and one person said, "Oh, I have something like I have severe untreated ADHD, so like mistakes are clearly on me." I'm not 100% convinced of that at this point. Number one. The other one was someone that was like, "Oh, I didn't read that this was just a pattern. I thought I was buying a plushie," which, like, be so for real that you would spend $2 on a handmade plushie. I know, people who sell at markets and whatnot, they might do a pretty generous D-stash of stuff, but you should have at least messaged the designer first. And they were at least kind enough about saying, "Oh, oops, it was my mistake," but then, I gave the pattern to someone who could make it and they enjoyed it. So, all's well that ends well. At least they were not coming from a place of like, "You did not advertise this correctly," because it was advertised properly if you read the whole thing. And that's what they said. It's like, "I didn't read the whole listing and my bad." Um, this is a bit of a difficult ratio to sew. And I'm trying to be careful of like not saying counts and details and ratios because something that simple probably isn't a huge copyright issue, but at the same time I want to be respectful of the work the person did, even if they weren't very explicit in the pattern. So if you want to make one of your own, I would recommend taking some time to think about some of these things and understand that not everything was blatant, which I know sometimes I get a little bit. I feel like sometimes patterns explain stuff like to the nth degree of like, did you need to put that in there? But then it's like, well, yeah, because you just never know. Um, or even for someone, and I have off days where I don't want to think. I am crocheting a sweater right now that is in timeout because this is not the designer's fault. Like, they explained how to make it longer because I'm tall, so of course I'm going to make a sweater longer. And I'm at a point where the math, I need to do the math, and I just don't want to. Oh, man. So, like, great pattern suggestion. It would have been nice if they said how that translated to the repeat. Okay. So you see how it's like cinching it in and making it that cute bubble bottom, but I think you could do it either way. Oh, yeah. Little Twin Stars. Is that one of the Sanrio characters? Because I don't know all of their names. I'll be honest. Like, I know them when I see them, and that's about it. And yeah, and then also, of course, I wore this on the haunted tour in Charlotte. And it's funny, so I show up, and the person giving the tour, she's in like full 1800s style garments. In her words, fully authentic, made by her mom. I mean, she was absolutely fabulous and hysterical. So she took one look at the shirt and she goes, "Did you wear that just because of the tour?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, obviously I'm going to be themed for the tour, not as committed as someone in, a corset and full ball gown in, 80-degree weather with high humidity." But it was super fun. And I don't even know. I pretty much bought this shirt as soon as it came out on Torrid, and they ran like even a little bit of a sale on it because I'm like, okay, it's more than I would normally spend on a t-shirt, but I had a feeling it would sell out very quickly. And this was August. And yes, I have absolutely been wearing it at least around the house since I first got it. That was early August. And then there was one day, it was like, oh, it's work from home day. I don't have to be on camera for it. I must not have had any meetings that day, or sometimes on the larger ones, they don't expect you to because it really kills the bandwidth. But I had it on because why not? And then I go, like, I forget that I have it on, and then I went to Dollar Tree and then two different Dollar Trees and Michael's. And at the one Dollar Tree, I was looking for something specific, and she's like, "Oh, I love your shirt," and I was like, "Oh, well." She's like, "Well, hey, it's not a Christmas shirt in August; it's a Halloween shirt." And yeah, I just don't know all their names. I really should. Like, obviously, I'm a sucker for cats, so, and I understand that Hello Kitty is a girl dressed up as a cat. I'm not. I get it. Oh, interesting. Nice. We did not have any fun languages like that in high school. I think they even did away with Latin when I was in high school because just no one was taking it. My brother, the one who just moved back home after retirement, he was stationed in Japan for, I think it was ended up being a 3 year. I think it was originally 4 year. And then when he came up in retirement, they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead and put in your retirement paperwork. I'm not convinced anyone in his family has learned much Japanese. Although, hilarious story. So my niece is about to be 12. And I feel like the age part of this is going to be interesting. Now, a lot of times I used to feel like, oh, she's like a mini me. And truthfully, like looking at her features and everything, even though, she's essentially half Mexican, like we do have a lot of similarities. Like if you look at my younger pictures and what she looks like now. And so she's at this new school and they're in social studies and they're talking about lineage and everything like that. So they go around the room and talk about lineage. And so I think my brother just never went into like how our European side breaks down into mostly Czechoslovakian and that stuff, which is fine for the purpose of this. So of course the teacher's like, oh, about, what is your lineage? And she says, when it gets to her, that she is, I'm trying to remember how she did the percentages, but it still didn't add up to 100%. So like, for example, I think she said, well, I'm half American, half Mexican, but also I'm 3% Japanese. And so, of course, the teacher's like, okay, 3%, that's very specific. Where did, how is it 3% Japanese? What side of the family is it on? And she goes, well, we spent 3 years in Japan, so it's 3% Japanese. And I'm like, I'm not even mad at her logic. It was just truly fascinating. So, oh. So now, like, that and a few other things that have come up, I'm like, she's sort of my mini me because some of my logic does, like, and I remember my younger logic was a little skewed on certain things. But she is like me unhinged. Seriously. All right. Now, this is another interesting thing of this pattern. Oh, excuse me. Is it's showing the pictures of sewing this portion up, but also showing to sew the arms on, which we haven't made yet. And so I don't know if that was just an error of where those photos got placed in the pattern, or if it'll say refer back to this page or not. I don't know. Okay. So that is his body. Mm-hmm. We might have a visitor. I don't know yet. Someone has deigned to make their presence known. But I think I have enough stuff around here that she might not want to come up because it's just a lot. All right. Let's see. So the hat is going to be similar in construction. Sorry if the camera is shaking. She has decided the tripod is her best friend right now. Hey, Chloe. No, can you? Oh. She's just showing you some love. Oh, man. So, all right. Hour and a half in. I would not, oop, I would not say that this is supermarket friendly at this point, because what you would charge and then have it be about a 6-inch plushie, I think. I don't know. And again, if I made this again, or like several times over, I could see getting faster at this. I don't know. And like anything else, you could always make one or two for a market, try it and see how it goes over. I am not one to do markets personally. What? So this instruction I've never seen before, but I am going to go with it. But it is definitely a different magic ring count than I have ever seen. I think I am tempted to do a different way of starting around, but also I'm trying to stay true to the pattern for the purpose of this. All right. That's going to be interesting. But given the shape of the hat, also sort of I get it. Okay, this is not going to be the easiest. I don't love the white yarn for this small of a magic ring, but and being that like it's a little bit more visible as it will stand, but let's go with it. This is going to be awkward. So because it wanted to curl downwards instead as I was working it, so I just needed to force it to do what I want it to do and what it's supposed to do. This part is going to be extremely difficult to work, but hopefully it's only for a small bit. Ooh, all right. At this point, I'm going to have to manage the magic ring. Get that super snug. Okay. I guess I don't really see that from the outside now that it's nice and super tight. Well, why don't you come up? No. She doesn't want to make an appearance, but she wants you to know that she is here. Seems about right for Chloe. Okay. I think it was me. I don't know that I would have constructed that the same. I think I might have come out from the opening of the hood and gone back, but there's validity in doing it this way too. So Case is up now too. And he seems to be entertaining himself. All right. Whew. So anyone who's used to doing magic ring and then the types of increases for usually like something a lot more rounded, obviously that's not going to be the same as this. So I think that's what's also partly what's making it a little bit awkward, is it's just a different feel than what you might be used to. Which I think it's okay. Like, I appreciate that they were willing to step out of the usual bounds and do something different. Okay. And all right. We're getting there. Definitely getting there. What's up, little buddy? You want to come up? No? Okay. And this one there, no. I also don't know that it was necessary entirely to go. Oh, I grabbed the wrong hook when I went to go pick it up, which it's not going to make that much of a difference. But even this small hook, I don't know is totally necessary. Maybe because when I'm making plushes, I tend to crochet a little bit tighter anyway. Okay, so definitely wants to hang around but doesn't want to come up. I think he's more just begging for treats at this point. And it's a little early for that. Yes, it is. It's far too early. So... yeah. All right. I will say though, something like this that is this dense and like as long as you're, I think, even if you're struggling to see the stitches, if you also choose a chenille or something in this vein, that even being like one or two stitches, like a stitch off here or there, isn't going to make a huge deal, in my opinion. But obviously it's up to you if you want to have it be a little bit more exact. Hey, there you are. You want to come by? No? Come here. Want to say hi? Yeah. You can show them your boo-boo because your sisters got tired of you pestering them. You definitely earned that one. He cracks me up because a lot of times if I'm filming a video just to film, he'll has no problem. But like, I don't know if like obviously he's a cat. Does he have really a sense of live streaming versus just filming a video? No, but also I kind of feel like he senses something is different about it, and then he does that. So, truly, truly fascinating. I'm definitely putting a little bit of a curvature in my hook with how tight this is. Just so I can get into this last stitch. Okay. So now it's at a point where you can kind of sense where things are going. Now all of them are up. Madeline will probably come in at some point. She definitely needs to go back to the bed, unfortunately. I don't know if she's got an allergy or if it's just some kind of yuck that just, it kept lingering, and her last appointment, it seemed like it was clearing up, so they didn't want to just throw her on antibiotics being so young. Which I appreciate, but also it seems like, I don't know if it's the weather change or what, but it's starting to come back a little bit more, so I am supposed to have an appointment for queso this week, so hopefully they'll let me just swap. Granted, there are two totally different types of appointments, so I don't know. They might. Okay. Whew. Its head is coming along, and now it's at a point of just single crochet, another stretch of rounds. Okay. I had to think about how many that would come through too, because you can be really good at math, but then also start knitting or crocheting or cross stitching or really anything, and then discover you really cannot count simple numbers. It's so easy to lose track of where you're at. And like, it's funny because like I don't even have the TV on. I'm not trying to follow a storyline or anything, and then also, you know, messing up. But let's see. I don't remember the song off the top of my head, so. Oh, that one. Okay. I've been using a lot of YouTube studio music lately just because sometimes that's, you know, what fits the vibe better. Or there's ones where I just forget to use them for a little while, and yeah, that's all. Caroline, would you leave Chloe alone? She doesn't want to play right now. Or really ever, but... Hi! Why don't you come here? You wanna come up? Oh no, the iPad's open, so she's going to want to play with the screen. Which, granted, I'm at a point where I don't fully need to look at it, but... She's also managed to get into other screens and apps that I was like, really? And I mean, she's not trying, she's just playing because it's fascinating to, right? I'm actually going to close the cover just so I don't lose where I'm at. I know. I don't know. This is going to be a really interesting game of Yarn Chicken right here. The fact that this got severely twisted in manufacturing is skewing how much this feels like there is left. So, I think there's enough to finish. I think she's confused by music because I can hear it on my end too. And I don't know that she's, well, no, she's had to have like been around editing and sounds and stuff with the computer, but it's still fascinating because, you know, she's still a learning kitten at the end of the day. Out. Before I end up accidentally knotting it somehow. That was a very good girl. She has actually listened pretty well with not messing with yarn, which is fascinating because cords are, I don't know, I guess every cat loves cords, but Now you want to play with the tripod? Yeah. That's fun. Oh, hi. Why don't you come say hi? No, you're good? All right. Where are we at? Since we're closing in on 2 hours, and I can see potentially others may not want to sit through all of this. Um, let's see how the rest of the pattern looks. I think by the time you've gotten to this point, the rest of the pattern isn't too bad by any stretch of the imagination. I do not see, like when I get down to the arms, those same pictures of how to sew the arms onto the body. So I do think that might have been an error of where it was supposed to be on the PDF. Again, anyone who's been crocheting or knitting for some period of time could probably figure that out. But I could also see for someone newer why that would be confusing. I would probably, at this point, given some of those things, put this pattern. I think I'm still in the lower end of intermediate just because not everything is super explicit. I have also purchased patterns that were very blatant in, hey, this is not, a full tutorial pattern, so don't expect hand holding along the way. This one, again, because it's an Etsy listing that didn't specify, I was really curious how that would be. Now, if you're an adventurous or advanced beginner and you've been following along and hearing some of my comments along the way, you might be able to have a little bit better of a shot to muddle through some of this. I also would strongly recommend, even for myself, that it gets made in acrylic before one of these fluffier, plushier yarns that can be a little bit harder to see. And I really think that would make a huge difference for someone newer to the crochet game. And that might give you a better idea of if the pattern really is for you. So for the $1.95, I think that's a mostly fair price for what this is. And understanding that, if this was the $6.50, like had it not been on sale, I would be certainly disappointed in those missing pieces of instruction, because I think there is a certain price point where you would expect a little bit more, I want to say hand-holding, but things to be a little bit more explicit and explained a little bit clearer than what this is. This is the first time I've purchased a pattern from Mrs. Chance Crochet. I would still probably purchase from her again and know that what I'm going into, that I will have to probably, next time read the whole pattern first, see about what kinds of things may or may not make sense. If it's a pattern that I truly, truly love and would want in a plush yarn, I would certainly start with the acrylic. Even myself, I would just spend the time to make it in acrylic first so that I get all those little, I want to say tricky. It's tricky in the sense of tricky to see on this type of yarn. So it does look like there are pretty decent instructions on where to sew this onto the body, which I'm nearly, yeah, I don't have much more to go before the hat is finished. So I'll get to that point, and then we'll do kind of a little mock-up. But that's the interesting part, though, because in the pictures before, it looks like the arms are being sewn on before his hood. So, I think that's what it comes down to. I think if you spend the time to read through everything, make sure, again, being at a closer to an intermediate level, seeing where there's a little bit of inconsistency or, one or two photos out of place. I think if you really look at it critically enough ahead of time, this would not be a problem at all. So, I mean, for $1.95, so with tax, I think I spent like $2.08 or $2.12 or something like that. I don't remember. I actually bought it a little while ago and just hadn't gotten around to it. So yeah, I think $1.95 is a fair price, especially because this is not a design that I've seen anywhere else. So because of that, all things considered, $1.95 is fair. So if you want your own little Grim Reaper, there should already be a link down in the description box below for the pattern. I know it took me a little bit to set up the back end yesterday, so if I missed that, yell at me in the comments and I'll make sure I get you the link to the pattern. Or once I hop off, I will make sure it's also there. And I don't know this designer well enough to know if it's someone who tends to put things perpetually on sale. If not, then certainly I would imagine she will run sales again. If you're seeing this someday in the future and not live or shortly after the stream is available for viewing. And Madeline loves anything with a bell. So enjoy the added, I don't know if that would classify that as ASMR for sure, but the ambiance, the added ambiance of kitten playing in the background. I feel like that's valid. There's all those fireplace, coffee house background videos. Why not have kitten playing with a bell in the background? Okay, getting here. The end. Yes, that was actually around right there. Okay. All right. So let's see where we're at and we're going to use our imagination that ends are woven in and everything at this point. We're also going to pretend that I've made the arms because I don't know if anyone wants to sit through another hour of me making arms before sewing. It does say about where. Between. Okay. So you would kind of do something like so. I didn't even make that like to try to be funny, but so I think if you flatten it a little bit and then do that, I think it's going to be super cute. Yeah, I think it's super cute. So worth a little bit of the hassle. Had you asked me in the beginning if it was going to be worth the hassle, I was feeling like no at that point, which was a combination of the pattern and the yarn, the initial yarn choice, not this. Let's see. I'm not sure where I'm gonna end up as far as the arms, if this is enough yarn or not. So if you are using the Dollar Tree size skeins, at this point, I'll put it down in the comments once I'm fully done where I end up with if I win or lose at Yarn Chicken, and luckily I have my insurance skein right here. But again, because everyone's tension is different, I would at least get that second one as insurance, if nothing else. But it is definitely a game of Yarn Chicken here. Now, I guess, well, no, because if it came down to it, his little, trying to make sure I'm not showing, like this little part of his little scythe or whatever, you could do that in another color for sure, or would I do that out of acrylic? Probably not. I could use the black and torture myself if it came down to it, but I think this will be super close. But even for myself, even if I win Yarn Chicken, depending on how close this is, I would probably be tempted to have a second skein if I was doing this in another color. So overall, I would say go ahead and check out this pattern designer. This is Mrs. Chance Crochet on Etsy. I would just be for sure to read through the entire pattern before you get started. If you are an adventurous beginner or advanced beginner, if there's anything that is confusing to you before you get started, because I know it's frustrating once you hit that spot, I would go ahead and either reach out to the designer, or if you have more experienced friends, to get you through some of any other parts of her patterns. Again, this is only one pattern of hers that I have made. Maybe the other ones are totally fine. Did it say when this pattern came out to see, like, if this is brand new and maybe others have not commented? I don't know. And the pattern listing is Grim Reaper crochet pattern, Halloween crochet, ghost crochet pattern, spooky amigurumi pattern, Halloween crochet patterns. So all of the good keywords. So she did a good job there. Let's see. It doesn't say, I don't think, when this was initially listed. So I don't know if this is a fairly new pattern for her. Again, I only saw in all of those, hey, these are some cute pattern ideas for Halloween. I think I was really only one or two creators, and I'm leaning towards Blondie Knots on one of her pattern roundups, is where I saw. Let's see. Let's read some more reviews, because why not at this point? Other people said it was easy to follow. Again, if I looked at it from a standpoint of being as experienced as I am, those little blips are nothing to me. I'm trying to be fair of someone who might get tripped up on it. So if you're more like intermediate advanced, yeah, this pattern was really not that bad at all. I feel like almost every pattern has a spot where it's like, I'm not 100% sure what they mean by this. Let me think about it. Okay, and then you move on and everything else is fine. Let's see, well-made pattern. Let's see. So some of these reviews are not, like, they haven't even made it yet. Pattern looks easy to follow, but I haven't made one yet. Okay, well, that's not super the most helpful. And I know we all want to give positive, okay, most conscientious people want to give positive reviews, so I appreciate that. So what do you guys, like, what do you think should I put in the review? Should I, like, I don't want to be brutal. Yeah, the hat conveys a grim. Yeah, I think it is super cute. I think it's worth the hassle just because I want it bad enough, honestly. A lot of people are just saying great pattern, easy to follow, amazing. Love the fun outline of the pattern. Maybe it's me, maybe, you know, I don't know. And based on like going all the way back of the dates of these reviews, I do, yeah, sort of believe that it came out this year for sure. So I'm curious, and because I do like to give reviews because I feel like that's helpful for both the seller and the purchaser, how, because I also want to be constructive, so I'll think about that. I think I would just be like, this is not a super beginner pattern, but it wasn't terribly difficult either. I think that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. A lot of my struggles in the beginning were me not counting right, struggling with the black yarn, even some of the other little details that weren't explicit. I think if you're someone that understands like taking the leap of faith and just follow without overthinking it. So I have that problem going for me of overthinking. Maybe that's why other people find it easy, is that they just did it and it was fine, or maybe they read through the pattern like you're probably supposed to do, and I did not. So certainly go ahead, check her out. This has been so fun to hang out with all of you, and if you end up making your own little Grim Reaper, let me know. You can also go ahead and tag me on Instagram. It's same at @stitchesgonnastitch. And I'd love to see if you make it. I'll go ahead and pop this up once I finish and make his little scythe. I think that's what it's called. And yeah, this is super fun. If you like this format of just trying a new fun little pattern, rating whether I feel like it's worth the money or not, doing it live. I know a lot of people really love free patterns, but I also wanted to review a paid pattern for that reason. Like, was it worth it? And for the $1.95, 100% worth it. Go check it out. And as always, I cannot wait to visit with you in the next one, and I hope to see you Friday. Bye!